I've known our Darshanit, Dr. Beryl Geber, for a number of years. Known her as a member of the congregation and knew of her work in a number of Jewish organizations, most recently and for a long time now, the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. And I'd always heard words about her and how people would describe her and how she was held in great esteem and respect by all sorts of people within the Jewish community. I think it was about a year and a half ago, perhaps two, you'd have to correct me, when her portfolio changed and it brought her into serving as the primary liaison to synagogues within Jewish Federation, working on programming together between the Federation and the synagogues in the greater Los Angeles area. And in that capacity, I've not only got to hear about my colleagues talking about Beryl, but also to actually have any number of conversations with her. They often start with conversations with the task at hand, a project or an issue that Federation wants to bring to the congregations to develop and work with. But oftentimes our conversations would then move beyond what was the matter at hand and would deal with any range of different issues. And I understood through all of those meetings, and it came to an ever greater appreciation, exactly why it is she is so respected and esteemed by so many within the Jewish community in Los Angeles. It is a pleasure once again to be able to share the bima with her this morning.
Shabbat Shalom. In a recent conversation that I had with Rabbi Eddie Feinstein, he described the days of Rosh Hashanah and of Yom Kippur as the days of the big tribal gathering. It is the one time during the year that families and individuals who seldom enter a synagogue or do anything Jewish at least become aware of the fact that something important is happening, and perhaps they find a way to connect to it. And so it's appropriate that on the Shabbat prior to the New Year, we read Parshat Nitzavim. It tells of a very big gathering, a gathering that occurred as the children of Israel approached the end of their hard and difficult and amazing journey through the wilderness, through the unknown, from slavery to freedom, from being an unstructured collective to being a people with laws and obligations, a people with a sense of its past and the ability to forge a new future. It is the end, too, of the journey of Moses, who had not only led the people, but who had carried the weight of the decisions that flowed from their actions. And so it marks the passage of the Israelites from being dependent from the certainties of being slaves and the limits and constraints that slavery imposes, to the uncertainty of freedom and of choice and of free will. It's truly a momentous occasion. We read, "You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your tribal heads, your elders, and your officials, all the men of Israel, your children and your wives, even the stranger within your camp, from wood chopper to water carrier, to enter into the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is concluding with you this day, with its sanctions, to the end that he may establish you this day as his people, and be your God as he promised you and he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant with its sanctions not with you alone, but both with those who are standing here with us this day before the Lord, and those who are not with us here this day." What is happening at that moment is the rededication of the covenant of the people with God. It is the moment when the covenant is to be ratified, when Israel is to be God's people and God is to be their God. And the covenant isn't simply a pledge. It's a pledge with understanding that actions are consequent upon its acceptance, and that there will be benefits and blessings from the acceptance of its obligations, and dire results from its transgressions. And these benefits and transgressions are not imposed or proffered by man, but they are done so by God. In thinking about the meaning of this parsha and how to delve into its import, I was tempted to dwell on the choice that is offered the people at this time, a choice familiar to many of us in its bluntness. See, I set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity. And later, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. I have put before you life and death, blessing and curse. Choose life. Powerful. Choose life. It still speaks to us over the millennia. Choose life. And we can debate what this means. Who would not choose life and good over death and evil? Why spell it out? What good are we choosing? What sort of life is enjoined on us? Is it, as Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, that we are to choose good that is powerful enough to leave lasting impressions on our children and our students and make them want to choose the good? Or is it, as Rabbi Gittelman argues, that choosing life is learning to love ourselves in spite of our failings? The discussion about the meaning of this phrase is intense and it's complicated. And to do justice, we need more time to wrestle with it than we have at the moment. But there is another element to focus on in the Parsha, namely the gathering of the people. For those of us toiling professionally or as laity in the Jewish community, working to strengthen, sustain, and enhance the Jewish community, to engage the unengaged, to excite the doubtful, to find purpose and meaning in laboring to mediate the balance of forces that attract and retain us as Jews and those that pull us away from tradition and values, there is a vision in the Parsha that speaks to us powerfully. It's a vision of unity, of what it means to be part of a whole, to be one of the children of Israel. Everyone is part of the assembled people, and everyone is included in the commitment to the covenant. Whether present at the time or part of the very distant future, every Jew is part of that crowd. No one is left out. The passage does not exclude those who are poor or those who are disabled. It is for residents and strangers. It is not only for the powerful and for men, but also for women and the ordinary worker. It includes the wood chopper and the water drawer, the hale and the ill, the stranger in their midst. Everyone is witness to the covenant and enters into it. It is the most inclusive gathering of our people, a gathering without judgment as to who is suitable to enter into a covenant and who may be wanting. All that is demanded is that the covenant is entered into openly. No fingers crossed behind your backs. No thought that what we say and do can be only words and not held close to the heart. In fact, it says in the Parsha, perchance there is among you some man or woman, some clan or tribe, whose heart is even now turning away from the Lord your God. Perchance there is among you stock sprouting poison weed and wormwood. He may fancy himself immune, thinking, I shall be safe, though I follow my willful heart. The Lord will never forgive him. It is truly an awesome covenant that we are entering. And the people present commit not only themselves, but also us. As it is said, those not with us here today. We too are assumed to be part of the solemn assembly. The actions of those present all those generations ago commit us, their future, just as ours will today certainly shape the generations that are to come. The covenant is for each and every individual directly, not mediated by the head of the house or the community powerhouses, not only for those born into the tribe, Not only for some, it is for all. And there is no thought, as Rabbi Bernhardt pointed out, that the covenant needs an intermediary to interpret it. We read, "Surely this commandment that I give you today is not too baffling for you, nor is it beyond your reach. No, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to observe it." Nowhere is there an implication that some of us are unable to accept the common bond of the covenant, that the young adult who is autistic cannot be part of that community, that the family with two fathers should be excluded. The covenant is for all, clear to us, not demanding an intermediary. "See, I set before you this day life and prosperity, death and adversity." What we are enjoined to do is to choose life, to live by the obligations of the covenant as if it were given to us in person, to make sure that we don't bring down on ourselves the sanctions that will befall anyone who excludes him or herself from the covenantal community, and further, that as a community, we maintain the integrity that goes with choosing good and life. Earlier this year, the Jewish Federation sponsored a conference that discussed ways of including families of special needs children in our community, in schools, in synagogues, wherever Jews gather. We heard heartbreaking stories from families about how they feel invisible, about how they enter a synagogue and feel stared at because of the physical characteristics of their child or because of the peculiarities of his or her behavior. Families that wanted a Jewish life, however it could be provided for themselves and for their differently abled children. We learned of youngsters that want to be bar bat mitzvah, to accept the covenant of their ancestors, but couldn't do this in the usual way. We learned of and heard about the pain of parents who didn't know how their son or daughter would be cared for after they had gone. We learned of heroic efforts to participate and wonderful programs to enable families to be part of our communities. But we also learned how much still needs to be done. We in the conservative movement are very much better nowadays at accepting families of varieties of colorings and compositions. We understand at the acceptance of the covenant we included everyone. We welcome those who choose to join us, for we know that today being a Jew and part of the community is a choice we all freely make. Evil doesn't necessarily befall those who choose not to accept the obligations of peoplehood. Commitment does not arise out of fear. Today, being part of the community is a positive affirmation of good, not the result of fear and death. Rabbi Ishmael Schorz has written, "Love and fear are conflicting emotions. Our relationship with God must include wholehearted love. As we accept the spark of the divine that is in ourselves, as we try to kindle it during the days of awe, so we need to recognize and nourish the spark in others. As we contemplate the days of awe that begin tomorrow night, as we rededicate ourselves to choosing life, let us also commit ourselves to a community that embraces everyone who stands or wants to stand alongside us. We inherit the history of people who gathered at the end of an arduous and dangerous journey to accept on our behalf the covenant of each individual with God and to thereby choose life. A life of good, of caring, of learning and of loving, a life we proudly hand to our children and grandchildren in the hope that they in turn will be committed to the same covenant and hand it to the generations yet to come. Let us choose life for us and for all who stand alongside us today, and for those whom we hope will be standing in the community in the future. Let us choose life. Shabbat Shalom. May you all have a sweet, healthy, and peaceful New Year. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.